Hello lovely people, I'm Catherine and welcome to this week's Journal for All Seasons, journaling for self-care. This week I've been really struggling to come up with something to, a theme or whatever, and I just couldn't kind of focus in on anything. And then I remembered that I'd seen this technique on a channel that I watch called Creation CC, I'll put a link below, about neurographic art. So I went down a bit of a rabbit hole and watched some other videos about it. This is one I did 2024, so last year sometime. You can do it in many different ways. It was coined by a psychologist in 2014 as an exercise in mindfulness and a way to process problems through drawing. I'm not going to go too much into the science because I haven't done a great deal of research, so I don't really feel qualified. But if you Google or you put into YouTube neurographic art, you will go down an enormous rabbit hole. I'm just going to do it as a sort of relaxing exercise and leave it at that. So Stells is a good girl. Stells doesn't need relaxing exercises. All she needs is a tennis ball. So that's one I did with black pen and watercolour paint. So in my journal for all seasons, I want to do it on a square. I don't know why, I just felt like it. So this is my double page spread for this week, which on this side is this artist canvas and on this side is just cheapish sketchbook paper. I didn't want to draw it across the gutter because you need to kind of flow. So what I thought I'd do is I'll do it on this separate piece of paper flat on my mat, and then later on I'll stick it in my book, and then it will get a crease in it, but at least I won't have the crease during the process. So this is from my book. These pages are A4 letter size, so two of them together is A3. So this is from an A3 sketch pad that I had, and I've just left it obviously the same width, but I've torn it so it's a square. So this is going to leave this piece at the side here, hope you can see, and I've got some words to write on there, but rather than just leave that plain, I thought I'd do some book page collage, because I've got lots of different kinds of book pages, and possibly a bit of gesso, and then write my words or stick my words on or whatever I choose to do. So I'm going to do that first so that can be drying while I'm doing this. So all I've done is I've laid my paper on there, and then I've put my ruler and drawn a pencil line just so I can see how far my collagey bits need to go. And I'm just going to get my glue stick. I've got rather a wacky jumper on. Can you see it? A friend of mine came over the other day and she had a few items of clothing that she'd bought in charity shops because she loved them, but she didn't think they suited her, and this wacky jumper was one of them, so I was the happy beneficiary. So I'm just going to use my Yoo-hoo glue stick. I think I'm going to use quite big bits of paper. I'm going to just tear them. Probably I want the edges square. I always get these bits off just because I don't like the plain bit. I still keep that though. Those little bits are nice to stamp words on or use as, labelly bits. So if that's going to go up there somewhere, I'm just going to roughly tear it. But like I said, I mean, if you wanted to do little tiny bits, then of course you go for it, but I'm just going to keep them quite big. Oops, sorry for that clangy metal ruler. Again, I'm doing it on my book, but I know I'm going to glue the other piece of paper over, so I'm not worried about that. Whoops, whoops, whoops. So for when we get to the neurographic part of it, the drawing, the one I just showed you, like I said, was watercolour and black pen. If you're going to use any kind of wet medium for your colouring in, it is very important, in case I forget to mention it again, that you use a waterproof pen. Otherwise it will bleed when you start putting the wet paint on. If you're not sure, if you're not a mixed media person and you're not sure of these things, then the best way always is on a scrap of paper to, draw a line with the pen that you've decided to use. Let it dry. They do need to sort of just dry for a little minute. and then slap a bit of paint or just a bit of water somewhere near it and see what happens, rather than, you know, spending all your time doing your big drawing and then discovering that that your paint isn't, that your ink isn't waterproof. Oops, sorry, I've got these Micron pens, but there are many other kinds that are waterproof. So again, I'm just getting the white edge off, not the white, you know, the plain edge. So I'll probably, you know, I'll just go ahead and stick bits all over. I don't think you really need to see me doing all that. And then when I've done that, I'll come back and talk about the drawing part of it. Okay, so that's my collage all done. I've gone about 1/4 of an inch past the line I drew with the collage, so that I'm sure when I come to stick this on that I'll cover the edge of the line, you know, if things like that are important to you. So I'll just set that aside to dry and come back to that later. Just put it behind me. So I've got my bit of paper. Now I've seen people do this in all kinds of different ways. And I guess it's one of those things that you can either do it properly, you know, as prescribed, and which seems to be that you draw your initial line for around 3 seconds, and while you're drawing the line you bear in mind a specific problem that you might have, or a feeling that you might have that you want to process, or something like that while you draw the line. Or you can just take it as a drawing exercise and draw the line. I've also seen people, before they draw the line, draw around shapes and circles or anything. You know, I've seen people drawing around the end of their scissors or an eraser, or, you know, anything like that. So I think last time, the one I showed you, I just did the wiggly line. I might do some circles. I've also seen people do the circles before and after. Like I say, I've been down a rabbit hole, I've watched a lot, and it's all a bit, you know, I haven't really got it straight in my head, so I just need to get on. I'm just going to draw some circles. So I've got 2 different sizes of tape and a lid of a tin. Odd numbers always, 3 or 5. Let's just draw circles. And there's that, you know, artistic principles. One is the triangle principle, where you have, you know, 3 things that kind of connect as a triangle. This is quite fiddly, and also trying not to get my head in the way. There we go. I might do some more actually. I might interlock them a bit. So I might just do 2 more like that. And there's a big empty space here, so I might put one. I'm not going to go slap bang in the middle of the space. Number 1, because that would sort of create a line here. And number 2, it's, I don't know, it kind of divides it. So I'm just going to go slightly off centre of the space, if that makes sense. I hope this big jumper's not too much for you all. I haven't really got used to it myself. Right, let's call that enough. Again, not necessary to do that. I just saw someone do it and felt like it. So now to draw the lines, an important aspect is that your lines must go off the paper. You don't start somewhere in the middle. So if I do this following the 3 second rule and count 1 1000, 2 1000, or, you know, whatever, I'll just start somewhere, bottom left, and I just weave around. And it's not scribbling. I'm not counting because I can't count and talk at the same time, but if you want to count. Whoops, I went a bit juddery there, but that doesn't matter. So there's one line. I can just go back and do that afterwards. And then I'm going to start here. It reminds me of when I was a child. We used to do something called taking a line for a walk. I'm going to roll my sleeves up because I do think this jumper's a bit much. Did you do that, you know, where you just take a line for a walk around a page and then you go back and colour in the spaces that your shapes that you've created? It's very much that, really. So now I'm just looking and seeing that I've got a big space here and a big space here, and I'm sort of inclined to want to fill those a bit. So I'm gonna, I can say I'm inspired by, I'm not doing it properly. Whoops. It's quite hard because I'm having to do it in such a way that my head's not over the top of it. Obviously when you do it you won't have to worry about that. And I think that's, you know, that's okay, that's pleasing enough. And then the next step, so if you've done that in the cycle, you know, with the mindfulness psychology approach, you'll have done that for 3 seconds, thinking about whatever the problem is that you want to address, or the issue or the emotion. And then the next thing that you do, and this is where the mindfulness really comes in, is that all the places where your lines cross, all these little intersections, are sharp and pointy at the moment, are very angular. So what you do is, and I'll show you a couple, and then I'll go away and do it on my own because I will have to get my head over the top of the paper, is, so if I take this little triangular area here, with your pen you curve it and then you colour in that little shape that you've made. And all 4, because that's a crossroads, so you need to do it in all 4 corners. And they don't have to be regular. And this is the part that really gets you in the zone, gets you relaxed. Like that. And then if you find that you've got an unpleasant, visually unpleasant jump there from where I've thickened all that ink up and then there's my thin line, you can just pull that out, you know, and thicken your line. And then I'll go here and do the same thing. So I draw a curve and colour in. So I'm starting here, I hope you can see. I'm really in awe of these artists that do really precise drawing tutorials, that you can see everything and their hand's not in the way. Like that. And like that. And if you have a wobble, just make it a bit bigger or fill it in. You know, there I've wobbled off the line a bit with that intersection, so I'll just neaten it up a bit. And I don't even mind there that the line's thick and tapers away. All those are all things you can play with. Like that. So you go around every intersection doing that, and you see that already, to me, begins to look like, you know, those images you see of neurons in the brain. And you can even do it here where your lines are going off the edge of the page, because here's an intersection with the edge of the page. You can also make the curvy shape there and colour in. I'm going to colour my cutting mat as well, but I don't mind. Like that. Here's another intersection. That line was a bit wobbly, that's where I went over it, so I can just curve that a bit as I do that intersection. And here. And yeah, I just find it's so relaxing. And it's that kind of, I don't know if you call it a metaphor or what you call it, that you're taking all those sharp jaggedy points and rounding them out. And I think that's where the, you know, the kind of the psychological aspect comes in, that when you do the initial drawing you're thinking of your emotion that you want to process or your problem or whatever, and then you round everything out, and it's that mental process that is mindful and helpful. So I'm really struggling to do this under the camera, so I hope I've shown you enough, and I shall go off now on my own and round out all my other junctions, and then when I've done that I'll come back and show you. Just a quick word, I can't remember if I said I've got here sketchbook paper. I'm going to colour in, I think, using pencil crayons or colouring pencils. If you're going to use watercolours, maybe you should use watercolour paper. But again, experiment first that it's pleasant to draw on, that it's not too textured and jumpy, or, you know, just bear that in mind. as to what kind of paper you use. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do my roundies, and then I'll be back. Okay, so I've done all my intersections, and I've thickened up some of the lines here and there, and it's taken me a good hour probably, but it's very absorbing. So I hope you enjoy it. The other thing I want to do is that I want to put some more lines, and also I don't like this circle floating on its own, so I want to connect that as well. So I'm just going to put a line somewhere. It's entirely up to you, you know, it's how you do it. I don't think there's a right or a wrong. I'm going to start here and go like this and loop. So this line's got a bit more kind of intention about it, shall we say. So now I've connected that circle and I've bisected some of the bigger gaps, and I think I want another line coming here. Oops. Probably would have helped if I'd taped the paper down, but I thought I might want to turn it. And maybe just one more. Oh, and I've got that underneath, which is not helpful. Maybe just one more here somewhere. I'm just making smaller shapes. If you're happy with having big shapes, then, you know, keep big shapes. I just wanted it a bit more intricate. So now I've done that, I need to go round again with the same process of rounding out all the intersections. And I just wanted to be sure that you understood what I was doing. So I'm going to do it on this bit of paper with a pencil, and check that I'm in the middle of the frame and everything, and then I can zoom you in when I edit. So if here's the intersection, I'm going to do it really exaggerated. So instead of having this pointy angular junction, you need to, starting somewhere along this line, and then do a curve to the other line, the opposite line in that section, and then that's the shape that you colour in. And then the same thing here, and you don't have to start from the same point. You could start down here if you like to make it even bigger, or you could, when you're doing this one, you could start way up here and make it smaller, as long as everything ends up nice and curvy. So if I colour in that shape that I've made there in the middle, you know, I've done it really big so you can see what I'm doing. But if you like this look, there's, like I said, there's no right or wrong. You can absolutely you know, make your intersections as big or as small as you want. I've even seen people doing it with Sharpies and, you know, big bold ones. So that's the principle. So I hope that makes that now crystal clear. So I'm going to go away again and do all my new intersections that I've just made, and then I'll come back probably with some colour. Okay, so I've done all my new intersections, and I've just made sure that I'm happy with the lines where they were a bit jaggedy or, you know, thin or whatever. I've just gone over and thickened them up, and I must say it's very absorbing and very mindful if you like that kind of thing. I hope you do. So now I'm going to colour, and like I said, you could do many things. You could just leave it at that, or you could put more lines on if you're just loving this process of, you know, making the rounding out the intersections. You could just keep adding more lines and keep doing that. You don't have to do any more to it. You could just stick with black and white and make patterns, or use colours and make patterns, you know, draw patterns if you're into Zentangle, which I've never really done. I've kind of got a vague awareness of what it is. But, you know, if you go in the spaces and create little patterns, hashed lines or dots, or, you know, more intricate, whatever you want. Or you could simply just colour everything in with paint or crayons or pencil crayons or, you know, whatever, felt tip markers, whatever you've got. Or you could use any combination of the above. Basically, now you've just got a lovely drawing that you've done and you've had fun making, and hopefully you found it relaxing, and you know, you can embellish it as you like. So all that wittering, I'm going to use I've got this lovely set of Stabilo watercolour pencils that the children actually bought me 2 or 3 Christmases ago, and I'm going to, there's 36 colours, but I'm not going to use all the colours. I think I'm going to stick with a kind of natural palette. So I'm going to have my greens and my blues. Maybe not even all of them. Maybe not the really bright greens, maybe just the sludgy greens, and maybe a couple of the browns. And it's the same thing that I talk about elsewhere as well, about not being overwhelmed. 36 colours will just overwhelm me and kind of make me want to use all of them, and I don't think I'll be happy with that. So this is just what I'm doing. You obviously do you. I might have a sort of ochre yellow as well, just as a contrast. So how many have I got there? Because numbers are also important to me. I've got 9, that's good. 9's a good number. And I'm going to keep my black pen out because I might do some pattern making as well. And I'm going to make a start. And again, I'm not going to share the whole process because it's going to take me hours, and you're going to see, all you're going to see for the hours that it'll take is this, and I haven't brushed my hair. So I'm gonna make a start. What I think I'm going to start with is kind of visually pulling out the circles that I drew, which are now a little bit lost in among all the lines. So there's 1, 2 here intersecting, 3, 4, 5. So these 2 intersecting ones, I quite like the idea of playing with that, and maybe doing 1 circle blue and 1 circle yellow, and then where they intersect doing it green, because blue and yellow make green. That's right, isn't it? Yeah. So I might do that, and I might not do the whole, say if I was going to do this circle yellow, I might not do all the sections yellow. I might just do this section yellow and this section blue and this section green, and then, you know, but it's a starting point, and that's how if I'm doing things like this, I just look for a starting point. I just look for my first step, do that, and that inevitably leads to the next step. So I'm going to colour in just this little section here with my, they have numbers. It's a sort of ochre yellow, and I use sort of the side of it so it's soft, but these are very nice for drawing with. They're very soft, and they are what they call aquarellable, or watercolour. So if you put water on, you can blend them, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to use them as pencils, colouring pencils. We call them colouring pencils here in Britain. I think in the US you call them pencil crayons, as opposed to wax crayons, which we just call crayons. Interesting, isn't it, how we have different names for things? I've talked about it before. And I always like to start as well just with a pale, gentle layer of colour, and if I want to go back and intensify it, I can. And I am bothering about staying in the lines because it bothers me, but if it doesn't bother you, then don't bother. We're not all the same, and that's a good thing. So now I've got kind of a light coloured coat, if you like, if you can say a coat, all over. I could decide then to just go around the edges and darken it a little bit. I'm very new to this kind of art. I'm, you know, no training whatsoever. It's just what I do. So I've just learnt from others. Creation CC is one. Someone else I like watching is Michelle at the Creative Cove. They're very, both of those two are very lovely channels for drawing and painting, and you know, they use words like doodling and scribbling so it doesn't feel intimidating. So yeah, so I've just sort of darkened up some of the areas, or not darkened, but you know, made them more coloured, and just left a little lighter area through the middle. And then now my pencil is sharper on one side than the other, so I can turn it round and then use that sharper edge, which will give more colour than the flat edge, and just go round the very edge a third time. And you see how long it's taken me to just do this one little section, And this is kind of the point of it, really. You could spend a whole day or more on this. And I have heard it said here and there as well that it is preferable, if you can, to do it all in one sitting. If you can, if it's not too much. And obviously look after your hand if your hand starts to hurt. One of the reasons for hand pain in a lot of crafting, I think, is gripping things too tightly. Just be gentle with yourself and with your materials, whether you're stitching or knitting or crocheting, or I think that is one thing that if it's something new and you're feeling a bit stressed or tense, you tend to grip, and that can cause your hands to cramp up. So I just do a simple little, a little bit of that every now and then, just to remind my hand to relax. It happens if I'm knitting on very fine needles and quite intricate patterns. I feel that probably through concentration my hands start cramping up a bit. Obviously, if you've got other issues, arthritis, rheumatism, all those kinds of things, then you might have specific guidelines from your medical people. But I'm just really talking about, generally getting cramp. So yeah, you can just play about with that. These pencils are, I'm not sponsored or affiliated in any way. It's just what the children got me, and I don't use them a lot because I don't really do a lot of this kind of stuff. But when I do use them, I'm always happy with them. So I can just fiddle about with this one little section of yellow for hours and hours until I'm happy with it. So that's my yellow. So now I wanted to do this area blue. So which blue shall I use? I think I might use this, which is a sort of greeny blue. So I'm just going to do exactly the same thing again. And just shade in the whole thing with a lightish hand. And then go back and do the shading. And when I've done that, I'm going to do this bit green and see where I go from there. So I'll go away and do that and come back when I'm a bit further along, when I decide to do something different that I want to share with you. So I really hope you enjoy this and have fun with it. I think it's, even if you don't think you can draw, I don't think I can draw, although I think I can learn, and I am learning, particularly through watching Michelle at the Creative Cove lately. She does quite a lot of botanical drawing and things like that, and I've been following along with her, and I've been getting results that I am quite happy with, because she breaks everything down step by step and calls it doodling and scribbling and not, not drawing. But yeah, I don't, if you can make a line on a paper with a pen or a pencil, then you can draw, that's drawing. And things like this, there's no right or wrong, it doesn't have to look like anything. If you want circles that look like circles, you can draw around something. If you don't mind if they're a bit more organic, shall we say, you can just draw them freeform, There's no real rules, there's a few guidelines, and it's just an enjoyable, relaxing process. And I just thought for this week, apparently I'm not going, apparently I've got things to talk about. This week for my journal, which is about self-care, I kind of had, it's hard to explain, I feel like I had lots of things I could have processed through my journal spread in my mind, and at the same time I had nothing. Maybe there was just so much in my mind this past week that it just became a whole load of white noise and I couldn't single one thing out. And then I remembered this and I thought, well, this doesn't need necessarily a specific thing. You can just sit and say, I'm feeling stressed, I'm feeling angry, I'm feeling sad, just a general emotion, or just sit and do it, and don't even kind of dive that deeply. And I've heard somebody say somewhere when I've been watching other YouTubers that it's supposed to kind of put the conscious mind in touch with the subconscious mind. That's the idea of it. But whatever you think about it, It's undeniably relaxing as an exercise. So I do hope you'll give it a go. So I have now gone all around that with my blue. I'm going to go around again and do my shady thing and do the green and spend many hours, if not the rest of the day. I'm actually filming this on Saturday because on tomorrow, my Sunday, I'm going to the flea market that I mentioned in Friday's video. And I was a little bit not frightened, but on Friday's video, for some reason the internet went really slow. Normally the videos upload here with my super fast internet. It takes about the same time as the length of the video, so if it's an hour's video it takes an hour to upload. But for some reason Friday's video took nearly 3 hours. So I didn't want to risk leaving this till Monday morning, especially since I knew it was going to take so long. So that's why I'm doing it on Saturday. I don't know why I just whittled on about that for, you know, anyway, there we go. So I'm going to go away and spend many happy hours colouring, and I'll come back at some stage and share a bit more with you. Okay, it's now Monday morning. Full disclosure, I'm still in my PJs. Well, this is not my PJs, this is an old jumper of my daddy's that I wear to be cosy, but the rest of me is in my PJs. Crafting in PJs is a thing. So I've finished my colouring in. It did take quite a long time, but I did really enjoy it. What I did was the shading kind of colouring that I showed you, I confined to my 5 circle shapes, because it kind of, I don't know if it's showing up on camera, but in person it kind of gives them an almost 3-dimensional effect. And then the background shapes I coloured just, you know, the same shade all over, and I just used all my colours that I chose. I did add an orange and another shade, this reddish brown, so I ended up with 11 colours in the end. And then there were 3 tiny little spaces, I'll point with the pen that I coloured them in with, here, here and here, that I coloured with my gold gel pen. Just they're barely noticeable, but they're there. But it was such a lovely exercise, and I spent quite a lot of Saturday catching up with my YouTube people that I watch and colouring at the same time. So I might do more to it. Oh, it's just started raining. I didn't have time yesterday because I went out all day to a flea market and had lunch with my lovely friend. So I'm not going to glue it in with you here now, because I might do more to it through the week. But I'll just show you because I experimented a bit. This was the Stabilo colouring pencil, like I said. Here I just experimented with drawing over it, and it works fine with my Micron pen. So here I did some little pebble shapes and coloured in between them, and here I started doing some hashed lines. Going one way, and my intention was to go the other, but so I'm thinking I might do some of that as well. I'm just going to see how my week goes, you know, what happens and how much time I have and whether I feel like it. So I won't stick it in until I'm sure. But yeah, if you've coloured it in and you want to do more, do a little experiment with whatever colouring mechanism you've used, medium thing. Watercolour paint you can draw over, you know, you can probably draw over most things, but I like to experiment on a scrap. Anyway, witter. When I say witter, I'm not apologising, it's just a thing. I'm happy to witter, you're happy that I witter, I witter. So here's my little haiku. I can't remember if I showed you it. You'll remember because it was, you know, not that long ago for you. There and back again, just to see how far it is. That's where I'm going. And I've just written it with my own hand, in my own handwriting, on a bit of coffee dyed sketchbook paper, and I've torn it to size. My collage that I did, I have just put a very, very thin coat of gesso over it, just to sort of unify it a bit and let that dry. And then I've got some pages, I'm just going to check that I'm in, yeah. I got some found text, so how to start and without end, because this is just kind of really about the journey, I think, this whole thing. So I'll stick those on. I'm going to ink them. I'll put that to one side. I have to put something on it or Fred will sit on it. And I find myself being a bit precious about it. I don't know, because it's neat, or, you know, if I do really grungy things, I don't really care if Fred sits on it, but that feels like if Fred sat on it, I might be upset. So I put it under my cutting mat or something. So yeah, let's get these inked. Where's my dibby dobber? Yeah, I'm talking about you. he's there in his basket. I'll see if I can show you. This might go horribly wrong. Say hello. There he is. It's in the basket that he now thinks is his, although it's actually the basket that has my slow journaling stuff in it. Most of my slow journaling stuff is now stacked up there because he's in the basket. Anyway, get you back where you should be. Hope I didn't make you dizzy, but you did get to see Fred, so it's probably worth it. Right, so I'm going to ink. And while I'm inking, I just wanted to say this, I think, would lend itself to being stitched, because I think I mentioned in Wednesday's video last week, which is the comfort coverlet video, that you know, about people that still want to do a weekly stitch journal and how they could take elements of the comfort coverlet, but also some people have said, and I think that's a brilliant idea, that they've taken that they're following this Monday series, but instead of doing it mixed media, they're converting it to stitch, if you like. So when I think of it, I will just give a little thing of, you know, what I'd do if I was doing this as a stitch. I mean, obviously you do you as always, but I just thought maybe it might, you know, give some of you ideas that maybe you could do it as a stitch. Well, this one, what I thought was, well, you could either just stitch lines randomly weaving about, like the drawing. Obviously that would go more slowly, and probably by definition it would be a bit more measured for that. Or you could tape a piece of cloth down with masking tape and draw with a pencil, and then, you know, stitch over your drawn lines. Or you could do the wrinkle embroidery that we looked at in one of last year's weekly videos. I'll put that video, you know, on the end screen. When you get to the end of this video, what pops up is a little picture of me, which if you click on it subscribes you to my channel. And then also there's another video, a recommendation. Sometimes I just let YouTube choose what it puts there, but this time I'll choose the wrinkle embroidery. That makes sense. So if you want to go and watch the wrinkle embroidery, if you didn't see it, or you want a reminder, you can just click on the end here and it'll take you there. Otherwise you'll find it in the slow stitch playlist on excuse me, on my you know, on my channel, Slow Stitch Project 2024. So you could, yeah, so you could do the wrinkle embroidery, and then for the junctions, doesn't that look fabulous now inked? That little bit of coffee dyed paper, sorry. I just love it. I just love it. A bit of coffee, a bit of ink, and I'm happy. You know, and a bit of paper. And then you could, for the little junctions, I don't really want to touch my precious drawing, I've got ink on my fingers. Then for the junctions, you could do a kind of satin stitch, or, you know, just fill those in with stitching. You could do a little curved line. You could lay your thread on in a curve and then just put a tiny couple of stitches over it to couch it into that curve, and then fill that gap in. I think you could really play with that with stitching, and I might well do it one day, we'll see, because, you know, there's a lot of things we want to do, isn't there? And sometimes they happen and sometimes they don't, and that's fine. And then you could go back in between, and you could do maybe different colour seed stitch or another kind of embroidery stitch in the spaces. So yeah, so if you wanted to do that as a slow stitch project, that would be how I would do it. Right, I've nearly inked my last thing. I'm probably also going to ink the actual page, because, you know, why not? Maybe I'll do that after, you know what inking a page looks like. And if I do any more drawing on it in the week, or even if not, I'll show you next week when it's all glued in. Stop inking, Catherine. They don't need to see you inking for another half an hour. I don't expect many of you would mind, but I'm just going to blow because there's bits of stuff on there. Whoop, and I've blown my words away. Sorry for the blowing sounds. Right, so I'm just going to glue these down basically with my glue stick, and just say that I really hope that you will give that a try, and, you know, I look forward to seeing those of you who share pictures on Facebook, in a private Facebook group or on social media. I don't look at Facebook anymore, you know. Sometimes I put a link if I put a video on my normal Facebook page, but I only go, when I say I don't look at Facebook, I go into our private Facebook group. I'm choosing not, for various reasons, not to engage with, I never did a lot, but not to engage with, you know, Facebook as a whole. But Instagram, I do go and look and see if I've been tagged. I tend not to scroll through and, you know, browse, but I do look if you tag me there. So yeah, so I'm just putting that up there, and then this one down here, I think. Don't put it, I have to remember that my drawing's going to come over a bit, so I need to allow for that. I just thought those how to start and without end just kind of were, oops, journey specific. And I'll do this on here. I did want to do a bit of printing on there, a bit of stamping, whatever you call it, with a specific thing that I've got, because I showed you my illegible text thing last time, I think. Somewhere I've got, it's a rubber sole of a shoe with lines that I picked up on the pavement somewhere in France a few years ago, and it's a lovely inky stamp. Oh no, I've put that in the glue and it's pulled the paper. Oh, never mind. Where am I going to put that? I'm not going to put it dead centre, I'm going to put it just down a bit. Excuse my head if I need to line it up. There we go. Yeah, look out for that. I put that down in the glue, but it's okay. See, some of it stuck there. Messy pup. What was I saying? Yeah, so I've gone mad looking for it. There was a wooden box that I had all kinds of found objects that I use for mark making. And I found the wooden box, but it's now got other stuff in. And I have a vague memory that I moved it into another box. But anyway, I couldn't find it. I'll find it. I wanted to do some, yeah. So I may or may not do some more on the background. I don't know, I'll see when my drawing's there. I'm not going to put my drawing in place completely because I don't want that to stick to the glue. I'll keep my hand under it. So yeah, it's a completely different feel to that spread as last week's. But I just so enjoyed doing it. Just took me back to, you know, childhood colouring and doodling. That was so relaxing. So, is that dry yet? No. Put that on there. There we go. So I can put it down to wave at you. So I hope you enjoy it and give it a go. And thank you so much, as always, for watching. And I look forward to you joining me next time for more, what are we saying here? It's not cloth tales, is it? Journaling tales. Bye bye. Have a lovely week. Those of you who only come in on Mondays. The rest of you, I'll see you on Wednesday. Bye bye.